hope you had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful holiday, whatever you were celebrating this time of year. It is the last week of 2023, and with that, we will be looking back on some of our favorite moments from the year. And today's episode will focus on the best sports stories from the year. Maybe not the best, but ones that live in our heart forever, and ones that we will remember. So let's get started. And the number one sports story that I will look back fondly on this year would be the Denver Nuggets winning the NBA championship, CJ. And not because the Nuggets won their first championship. That was great. But it was particularly Nikola Jokic's response to winning a championship immediately following their win over the Heat in the finals. Jokic was like, the work is done. We're done here. And then he realized that he had to do other things, like attend a parade and continue to do post-game media availability. And the man looked so disheartened to find out that there was a parade and he could not just go home to Serbia and go back to his horses and spend the summer betting on ponies and not doing anything with the NBA. He had to continue to celebrate. And that's when Nikola Jokic really became my MVP.
He just looked so sad.
So sad.
So solemn sitting up there in front of the presser. People were asking him, hey, you know, it was a great season. It's like, yeah, fine. Not really, though, because I'm still here. I want to go home and play with my horses. I've never seen a man so desperate to get home to play with his horses.
He was like, when is it? And they were like, oh, it's a couple days from after the championship. And he goes, no. I need to go home.
I need to go home.
And how, like, that was like the most relatable moment. Like, I just need to go home.
Can you imagine having some major accomplishment at work and then they make you stay late so they can celebrate you on that accomplishment?
You did so good. You got to do more work.
Well, and it's not, you know, it's a party. We're throwing a party. You closed the deal. You, Jessica Benson, closed the deal for us. All right, so stay late so we can throw you a celebratory party. Like, no, don't throw me nothing. Just let me go home early. That's what you do. You let me in the fourth quarter, just leave. Say, you got the MVP of the finals. Go home and ride those horses, Jokic.
They put that man in goggles, as you do after you win a championship, spraying champagne. And they handed him a bottle of champagne, and he looked so sad. Just
even
so unwanting to be there.
Who did he throw in the pool?
Wasn't it Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, even doing that, that only gave him a slight smirk.
He smiled a little bit at the parade.
Oh, well.
Everyone loves the parade.
He was lit at the parade. He, Brown, Gordon, everybody.
Nuggets victory parade was.
They were turned. What's Coach Malone?
Nuggets victory parade and Aces victory parade are two parades that I would like to personally be involved in.
I don't know if I can make it. My liver can't handle being at the Aces.
Parade, yeah.
No, they do. Those women are way too partier,
built different.
Party girl. Yes, is that what we're saying? That's what the kids say. Yeah, those women built different. I could not, just couldn't do that. No.
All right. Speaking of somebody who has always been built different, Tom Brady, all-time leader in wins in the NFL, in Pro Bowls, Super Bowl MVP awards, completions, attempts, passing yards, passing touchdowns, blah, 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 blah. He finally announced his retirement. For real. Tom Brady officially retired. And how did the man celebrate? By posting thirst traps. I don't know if you remember this, people of the world, because it feels like so long ago, back in February. But this was the first picture that Tom Brady posted after he finally retired. And he said he had never been aware of the term thirst trap until the response of that underwear selfie. My God.
What a way to end the year. What a way to start the year. I forgot Tom Brady retired. 1.
Me too. 2. This year.
Yeah, he retired this year. He retired. He announced his official retirement in February after the debacle of the first retirement. He announced the official one. Nobody broke the news. He just threw a video up and announced it. And then he does that. Can I see that picture again?
He's trying to sell undies.
I think, well, hell,
I think he did a good job.
I've got a pair of those. Look at those.
No, you do not.
Well,
you have Brady brand undies?
Yes, I have Brady brand undies. I had to save up 2 checks to get me a pair, but I got them.
I also forgot that Tom Brady officially retired because he announced it last year. Like he
announced last year he was retiring and then came back. Right.
And then did one more round with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then retired. And then his marriage fell apart and everything was sad.
I don't know how credible it is, but people in the NFL, people who cover this thing, say his plan was to go to the Dolphins and be with that team. That's why he announced the retirement and then came out when the Bucs wouldn't let him out of it. So that's the first retirement. And then they had a good season, right? They were a play away maybe from a win in the playoffs, I think. And then they lose, and he retires. So shout out to Tom Brady.
Speaking of things that did not feel as if they were this year, because there have been so many other conversations around this person, the Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat was this year. Aaron Rodgers almost retired. Like any of us believed that he was actually going to retire. But as he was leaving Green Bay and deciding, was he going to go elsewhere? Was he going to step away from football for good? He went into a darkness retreat and marinated on it. And a darkness retreat, we found out, was someplace that is exactly as it sounds. You go in, you are in complete darkness for days. No phones, no electronics, no real toilet situation, no electricity.
How are you using the bathroom?
That we never really got clarity.
Was there a
on
bathroom?
That. Wasn't there a pot?
There was something in there for you to. There's got to be something in there for you to use.
Okay, the room is partially underground, hobbit-like structure, 300 square feet, devoid of light. There's a queen bed, and there is a bathroom and a meditation mat on the floor, and it is fully powered. So he had electricity. How dark is it if you have electricity? At any point, the lights could be turned on. Do we think he cheated in the dark room?
Absolutely.
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 And now the New York Jets have been eliminated from the playoffs, and we'll never know if Aaron Rodgers could have become the quickest to return from an Achilles injury because they didn't make the playoffs. Wow. We'll just be stuck here thinking maybe he's built different.
Is he going to be good to go next year? Like by the start of the season?
We'll see. How old is he? 37?
38? I don't know. By the time the season starts, maybe 38, 39 next year, I would think he's ready to go by.
It'll be a
next
full
season.
year.
Yeah.
And again, it's a quarter. Like, it's different than basketball.
Yeah.
It's even different than being a
Running
skill
back.
position player.
Yeah,
And we saw
cornerback.
Cam Akers did it. Granted, then Cam Akers tore his other one a couple years later, which stinks. But anyway, the darkest retreat for Aaron Rodgers lived a large life in the sports media space.
So just so he could emerge,
right,
and be like, "Hey, I want to go to New York."
The Jets.
You needed to go into complete darkness to decide you wanted to play with that defense, with those skill position players, at one of the biggest markets in the nation. You needed darkness for that.
I mean, they hadn't been to the playoffs in 12 years. Now 13.
I just don't understand what what type of clarity the darkness gave him.
Don't ask questions.
Okay, my fault.
Never go a step further with Aaron Rodgers. Just keep it
I'm trying to do
layer.
my own research like the great Aaron Rodgers would do.
It's inspirational, honestly. One of the saddest stories from the year, but also was so much fun because for the first time in maybe ever, more people cared about Pac-12 football than ever before, and they were a part of the conversation. And then Washington is going to the college football playoff. They'll play in a semifinal game. But for the time period where all of these Pac-12 teams were winning early in the season, the Pac-12 remained undefeated longer than any other conference this year. And you had sincerely, really positive conversations happening between Washington and Oregon, who both down the stretch stayed strong. But then there was USC and UCLA started strong. Deion Sanders' prime mania swept over Colorado, and the Buffs were one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest storyline in college football this year. Arizona started to play well. It was just like every single Utah was still in the mix. Suddenly, the Pac-12 mattered again. Washington State, Oregon State, and they've been left behind. It was joyous, and then I had to watch all the mascots sadly dance together at the Pac-12 championship game, and it became all too real that never again will I be able to say, can't watch that game. It's on the Pac-12 network. Makes me sad.
That's probably why the conference is splitting up. I will say I thought about sending Colorado just for that 2-week span where they're coming off of the win over TCU, win over Nebraska. That Nebraska game week, it was, there's some fun going on in Boulder, isn't it? And then they beat Nebraska, and it's all eyes on Boulder for Colorado State. And it's Colorado State, a group of 5 school and a Colorado team that, won one game the year prior? And we are sending game day there. We're sending big noon kickoff there. And we are, if you're not riding with us, we're trying to get that black guy fired, for those of you who don't know. That's why that question, I love that moment so much that I made it a question in all of the chat polls. That was the moment they tried to get me fired. They wanted that black guy fired in that moment.
You weren't on board. You weren't about it.
Because I didn't care that who was going to be the guest picker. Who was the guest picker? You at home who wanted that black guy fired. Who was the guest picker of Colorado State? Tell me why that mattered to you so much that you wanted that black guy fired.
It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Oh, they got The Rock?
Hell yeah, they got The Rock.
It was pretty
big.
They could have won with Cordell Stewart.
We cared about Jay Norvell, the coach at Colorado State, who came in here and said his mama taught him to keep his hat forward. His mama taught him to take his hat off when he was talking to the media. And the sunglasses, oh my God, the beef between those. And then Colorado went and got steamrolled by Oregon. Was it the very next week?
No, they started the steamroll. USC beat the hell out of them for 3 quarters. And then in typical USC fashion this season, they allowed Colorado to come back in the 4th quarter and make it a 1-score game. So they lost to USC. And then the following week, they got the hell beat out of them by Oregon.
No.
Am I mistaken?
It was Oregon first.
It was Oregon first?
Yeah, because it was
because they do things. They care about what's on the field, not clicks.
Clicks, not likes.
Clicks. We care about the field.
We care about what's happening on the field. We're not about the clicks and the likes. Dan Lanning. Oh God, that was a beautiful time. And then USC almost lost it. They should have just lost to them. They could have taken my heart out of USC football a hell of a lot earlier.
Dan Lanning should have said that about Washington, or before his team played Washington both times. About the Huskies.
Washington's not really about the clicks or the likes.
Well, listen.
They could make it.
They're better than Oregon this year.
Do you have a college football game that stands out as your favorite college football game of the year?
Favorite college football game of the year? Ooh, doggy. I mean, like, it's Ohio State, Michigan.
Of course it is. What a dumb question.
I think Ohio State, Notre Dame was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think that Michigan, Penn State, the way they just told the tater there towards the end, said F a forward pass, we're just going to run it. I think that was pretty fun. Ole Miss, Alabama stands out to me as fun.
Ole Miss, LSU.
Ole Miss, LSU was great.
I was there, so biased, but
it was great watching it at home.
It was a great football
Texas,
game.
Alabama was outstanding. Yep. Florida State, LSU was great as well.
Charlotte, Maryland was one that I will always think back on fondly.
Like, why are you this way? You don't have to be this way. No, you
I
don't.
am.
Oh, best game, non-Michigan related.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah.
That was Dylan Gabriel had the last late touchdown. I think it was last second touchdown to beat Texas in the Red River rivalry. Iowa, Minnesota was great. Just how wacky that ending was, where you had Iowa return a punt for the touchdown to take the lead, but turns out they're calling it a fair catch, even though he's just pointing at the ball. Yeah, so it comes back. Good. You're in Kinnick Stadium. Iowa fans lose their minds. You look up, and all of Minnesota is on the 50. You're like, what are y'all doing? We're still playing. It's like, no, they're throwing stuff. We're not trying to get hit. And then you look up, and Iowa fans are just hurling objects onto the field. Oh, yeah, that's a good game also.
Speaking of sad times for
what's
Iowa
yours?
fans, I'd say the LSU Ole Miss game and the first iteration of Washington-Oregon. The first game of the year, but not the Pac-12 championship game that Washington pretty handedly won. But that first game with Washington-Oregon was when I realized the Pac-12 might actually get a team in the college football playoff this season, and that was a fun time to be had until it wasn't USC, and that made me really sad. But that's okay. That's okay. Speaking of Iowa, though, they had a great women's basketball team, unfortunately for them, just not as great as the LSU women's basketball team. And that LSU-Iowa national championship game was premier. That was the Angel Reese game where all of the narrative was Angel Reese wrong in her taunting of Caitlyn Clark. She was pointing at her ring. She was in her face. It was tremendous. It made Angel Reese one of the most exciting players and characters in the college basketball space. For LSU, they also were helped by a Memphian. Jasmine Carson got hot in the second half of that game. It was just a really fun, all eyes on women's college basketball moment. It was so indicative of the continued growth of the sport. We've seen that continue throughout the early portion of this college basketball season. Caitlyn Clark's still awesome. Angel Reese had her disappearance with LSU, but now she's back, and she's like holding Kim Mulkey back in a game in December where Kim Mulkey got ejected. LSU was up 41 points and Kim Mulkey got ejected from a game. Make it make sense. But alas, we will see how that continues forward in the women's college basketball space throughout the rest of the year. Number 6 on the list, I think it has to be the Taylor Swift takeover of the NFL. I know some true core sports fans think that this was a step too far. She took over way too much space, but I think it has been tremendous. And even watching the Chiefs-Patriots game at Gillette, and suddenly Taylor Swift went from week 1 showing up, or whatever week it was when she made her first appearance at a Chiefs game to watch her boyfriend, Travis Kelce. She's in there, like it's her first time, like she's not super, I don't know, animated within it. And now at this point in the season when there's a bad call, she's the first person dropping like a massive F-bomb, just like all of us in sports. She has emerged as like a true fan. She also is clearly in love. I was slow to be on the jump of the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift
You thought it was fake.
real item. I thought
You
it was
thought
fake.
it was fake.
I thought it was fake. I thought it was all for PR. I thought it was a little too smooth. I've almost lost friendships over that take, CJ.
What moment made you say, okay, this is it? This is the straw that breaks the back. I now believe in this relationship.
When he was in Argentina, when he took his bye week and went to Argentina, and she ran off that stage and into his arms.
The man plays for the Chiefs, or the boy, or whatever that lyric is.
Changed the lyrics.
Yeah.
Karma is me going home to the guy who plays for the Chiefs, or whatever it is. I'm not a true Swiftie. Don't get mad at me for not getting the lyric exactly correct, because they're scary.
Yeah.
They're scary. But they deserve this moment. And I am a fan of true love, and this appears to be true. And if I needed the like sealer, like that was the moment. But her interview for being Time Person of the Year, when she talks
Most
about the
intriguing
fact,
person or whatever?
well, People was most intriguing
Okay.
person.
Oh, my fault.
Time is Person
My
of the
fault.
Year, and she talked about how they actually started dating well before she made her first appearance, and so that was just their not soft launch, very hard launch of their relationship, but they had already been going through it personally, like took the time to get to know each other before they went out in the public, and it just seems very sweet. They're around each other's families, and God, I'm a sucker for the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce love after being such a hater. I was a true hater.
Does it feel like they're moving a little fast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone I know
Faster
got
than-
engaged this past week, and I was like, how long have they been together? Someone said a year. I said, oh, that's too fast.
What's the appropriate length of time to be together?
I was together for 10, so I would
Well,
say at least in
listen,
the 8 range.
Appropriate amount of
You
time.
gotta test drive the car before you buy it.
For 8 years?
Forever. Yeah, sure.
You come up to the lot, I bet they hate you. Like, oh no, she gonna try and
She's
keep
gonna
this car
test
for
it
a
again.
month. What is
No, I
she
think
doing?
like a year and a half to
Year
2.
and a half,
Like,
okay.
especially once you're in your 30s, which they both are.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think if you know, you know. Like, I have a friend who has been with someone for 6 months. They're gonna get married. We know that. It's just a matter of when it works for them.
Okay.
So I would say
About a year and a half.
anytime you get past the year mark.
When should you be meeting family members? Because like it felt like.
But now
even
we
if
don't know
they're-
what the real timeline was.
Well, he makes the bracelet in the
Yes.
summer and doesn't get it to her. So we're assuming that was him shooting his shot.
Right.
So July, maybe? We'll say June, July.
Sure.
They get together, right? So June, July, they make it official. Like, and she's sitting in the box in October? I guess that's fine. July, August, September, October. 3 months? 3 months, and then you need to start meeting parents?
Yeah.
That's kind of early, though.
I think when I
now
was
that
in
think about it.
college, it was like parents' weekend, and my parents met my boyfriend 3 months in.
Oh, I
My
wouldn't-
parents met Chris before we were dating.
There's no way in hell I would let my parents meet anybody at a parents' weekend. No, you don't need to know this. You don't need to know what type of lifestyle
need
I'm
to know
leading.
my life.
You don't need to know what's up, baby.
Anyway, I do love that all the Taylor Swift fans have become massive football fans, and it's a very sweet crossover between two genres. And there were already football fans who love Taylor Swift and Taylor Swift fans who love football, and now they just have a place where all their loves can emerge into one. All right, next up, the Victor Wembanyama mania. 7'4" Victor Wembanyama, most hyped prospect since LeBron James. As he started coming into being #1 pick territory after the Spurs took him, I remember he threw out the first pitch at a Yankees game, and it was like, oh my God, this is not a real human being. His body just looks so alien to others. And when you saw him stand next to Rudy Gobert and do the wingspan next to Rudy Gobert, who's the longest player in the NBA, and to see what Victor Wembanyama is in comparison, it just became abundantly clear we have to start figuring out how to make more Victor Wembanyamas.
Maybe I didn't. I think that there's some real issues with Victor, and we saw it some immediately after the draft. I do believe when he assaulted one of America's darlings, Britney Spears. You remember that?
Oh, I do.
You remember when
I do.
he assaulted Britney Spears?
She wrote about it in her book.
Running around
She
touching
wrote about
him?
it in her book.
Wait, what?
It made her book.
How did that moment make the book?
I don't know.
That moment, the book had to be done by the time that moment happened, doesn't it?
I think so, and it was super weird because, like, her divorce didn't make the book, but that moment made the book.
Because that was more important than...
It was.
What did she say in the book?
I don't remember.
I bet she just wanted to play basketball.
I was just trying to get the book over with, okay?
Britney Spears.
My support for Britney Spears runs deep, but God, that memoir was a lot.
We also learned Britney Spears just wants to play basketball.
That's all Britney Spears wanted to do was hoop. That was my biggest takeaway from the Britney Spears memoir. Every time she compares performing on stage to like getting on the court and just playing freely. She was a great basketball player. She came from a family of basketball players in Louisiana. And most recently, did you see her recent comment about Justin Timberlake? No. Oh, okay. Hold on. Talk about something really fast. It's important.
I don't know what to say about this.
Britney Spears.
You just throwing it to me like I'm supposed to know what to say.
You're a great vampire.
Victor assaulted Britney Spears allegedly.
Okay, I got it.
Well,
I got you.
I was winding up. I was finna start going. All right, what you got?
So Justin Timberlake recently performed Cry Me a River in Las Vegas. And before he performed, he said, "No disrespect, ain't we all just entertainers?" Insinuating like Cry Me a River is the story. He used Britney Spears look-alike in the music video. It's always been assumed that it was like his revenge video on Britney Spears. So Britney Spears posted on Instagram a quote tweet of it and said, "Oh, Jesus Christ, the stories I could tell on the set of this one. There's always more to the story. That's not even half of it. It was shot in Arizona, 120-degree heat. 2 different version videos were shot for this song. Most boys say, oh, I'm shook. PSSSS. I never mentioned how I beat him in basketball and he would cry. No disrespect."
Let Britney Spears hoop. Put Britney in the WNBA.
Put Britney back in the Celebrity All-Star game.
Put her in the W. Let's go. Let's get it going.
Beat him in basketball,
and he would cry.
All right, we got to continue going because, per usual, we're going too long.
No, we're not.
U.S. women's national team had a tough time at the World Cup. Have you watched that documentary, CJ, the docu-series?
I think it just popped up on my Netflix. How long has it been out?
It came out last week.
Okay.
We watched the first episode. I've heard great things about it. I don't know if it's because I know that they lose, but I'm just not all in it. I'll try to make it through, but it does tell the story of leading up to the World Cup, obviously all the players within that situation. But one of your favorite moments was a specific goal.
This was the goal of the World Cup for those women. Lindsey Horan gets knocked down, gets dirty play, I would say so. Do believe against the Netherlands, rolls off of the field, comes limping back onto the field, goes straight to the chick who knocked her down, mushed her in the face, is on a corner kick. Horan is standing there. Ball comes in, off of Loran's head, into the back of the net. One of the highlights, if not the highlight, for the U.S. women's national team. For those of you who might need a bit of a refresher, not a great group play for the women. They didn't score a whole lot. They ended up losing or drawing a game that they shouldn't have. But they advanced. They advanced to the round of 16 where they play their best game of the tournament. Unfortunately, they lose that in penalty kicks, in part because Megan Rapinoe stepped up to the line, something that she's done a million times, and a million times she's put it in the back of the net. Not this time, unfortunately. She misses it, and the U.S. women's team go on to lose in penalty kicks. They were by Twitter accounts, there's an article on, I think, MSNBC. I'll double check where that article is, but it says, like, yo, this was the team that received the most hate online this year.
It was a recent report from FIFA.
There we
Across
go.
all 32 teams, 1 in 5 players at the Women's World Cup were targeted with discriminatory, abusive, or threatening messaging. That's insane. And the U.S. women's national team, of course, leading the way within that study.
Saw it on NBC. And it's a combination of, okay, you're just good. So, of course, people are going to hate. Think about what we do with Georgia and Alabama. Like, we just hate on them. Sometimes the Warriors, we just hate on them just because sometimes. But it's also, like, politically motivated. This team had a weird mix of people who hate soccer, people who probably don't like women a whole lot, and, like, a political component to the hate that was coming.
People who don't like gay women, people who don't like the social justice campaigns that a lot of these players went in on. And like this team and these women have been responsible for a significant amount of change, especially in regards to payment and moving towards a more fair, it'll never be equal, but fair pay structure, considering this was a group that was trying to win their third straight. The docuseries, for those of you who are interested, is called, God, I found it and then I lost it. That's so embarrassing.
While you're looking for it, I just want to read this excerpt from
Under Pressure.
Under Pressure.
Under Pressure.
Excerpt from that article. The report found that 1 in 5 players at the 2023 Women's World Cup were targeted with some form of discriminatory or abusive content online. Homophobic and sexualized content about the players was prolific, the report said, and the homophobic abuse directed at women athletes was almost twice the percentage of what the male players endured during the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
I would love to know how much Megan Rapinoe even skews that number, because the hate that she has to deal with is tremendous. And I watched part of that documentary wanting more from Megan Rapinoe. I've only watched one episode, but I just think like having to live with that has to be an incredibly challenging thing to do. And you obviously have to figure out how to live in a world where so many people hate you for reasons that in your space, like you're trying to do good. You're fighting for causes that mean something to you, that are that important to you, that you're willing to take that much hate. I think it's an interesting dynamic. And anyway, Under Pressure, if you want to watch and relive the sad endings of times for the U.S. women's national team at the World Cup.
Rapinoe's last World Cup, she retired.
Last World Cup. And then she tore her Achilles in her last game, which was just like the most unfair way for things to end. Georgia won back-to-back national championships. I didn't put this on the list because the SEC means more and everyone will focus on it themselves. They won't win 3 straight, though, CJ, will they?
No. I mean, we can get into that, but it's how often have we seen back-to-back?
Yep.
We're spoiled because Alabama did it, I think, in 2011, 2012. I think they did it, but it's only been 8 of those. And think about that for a second, where everybody is able to claim national championships in the poll era. It's only happened 8 times. Georgia's one of those 8 teams to do that, and they were dominant in doing so, beating the hell out of everybody. SEC opponents, out-of-conference opponents in the playoffs, everybody not named Bama. And even I think they might have called Bama slip in one game. I can't remember correctly, or remember exactly, but the Georgia Bulldogs going back-to-back is something I think is worth noting. Not necessarily that they won a championship, but that they won again is something worth talking about.
And they, like you said, Alabama did it 2011, 2012, Nebraska in the 90s, Alabama in the 70s, Texas in the 60s, and Oklahoma in the 50s. So especially in the modern era of college football.
Yes. What do we call them modern?
Modern?
Because black people weren't playing in the 50s. Can it be modern with no colors?
No, that was my point. Modern starts in like the 80s. That would be my modern.
I thought you were calling the modern the 50s and 60s.
No, I was saying it makes it more. I would almost say that the only 3 teams who have done it in modern eras would be Nebraska in the 90s, Bama 2011, 2012, and Georgia. Like, I don't think I'm counting Bama in the late 70s. Although, who was on? I don't want to. I'm always bad with years.
I think black people were there by then. I think Bear proved his point by having USC come to town.
That happened by then, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that happened by then.
Okay.
I think so.
Last but not least, a sad memory for the Grizzlies, but the biggest story probably in the city this year when the Grizzlies were eliminated in the first round by the hated Los Angeles Lakers. Rui Hachimura decided to be great. Austin Reeves had his official coming out party, I guess. And LeBron James was a bear that was poked by Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks called him old, and then LeBron James was like, okay, I'm old, watch this. I'm going to eliminate you guys from the playoffs. And that they did. And it was a very sad time. And now for the Grizzlies, who have made it back to 3 straight postseasons and will hopefully find a way to push forward and make another postseason this year. But that series against the Lakers, I think we'll really look back on it as a hinge of a changing point for the Grizzlies. Obviously, Ja Morant would end up getting suspended for 25 games, which set the next season off on a weird foot. But that core of going all in on Ja, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr., and ultimately moving on from Dillon Brooks, they weren't going to pay him the $80 million. It wasn't the correct fit for him anymore. The fit is Ja, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr.? And how does that young core move forward as one of the most exciting and promising young cores? But everyone can have a lot of promise. It's how do you make it a championship promise? How do you turn that promise into competing for a Western Conference title, for a trip to the NBA Finals? And only time will tell if the Grizzlies can make it into that space. Hey, look at us doing a little best of 2023 in sports. Anything we missed, CJ?
Messi mania, if that's your thing.
Mania.
Otani's big-time contract. Memphis, speaking of soccer, Memphis men's and women's soccer team, or women's and men's soccer team, had phenomenal years this season. I do believe the men got their first win in the tournament ever, and the women were ranked nationally top 10 for almost the entire year. Looking at the list, Tigers men's basketball. They ended up getting to the round of 32 for the first time since 2014.
And then they lost.
Or was that last year?
That was,
yeah. Was that not?
They made it to the round of 32 in both the last years because they played Gonzaga 2 years ago, and then they lost to FAU this year.
In the round of 32.
Right.
Oh, was FAU the first round?
Yeah.
See, that's
FAU
how bad
was the
I
first
am.
round. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember when they lost, but they got to the tournament.
Yeah.
Shout out Tigers fans. They won. Oh, that's right. That's what they did. They won the conference tournament, right, Jacob?
Yeah, they beat Houston.
Yeah, they won the conference tournament.
This is a
They
really,
beat Houston.
This is
They
a
beat
really
Houston
great
in the
live,
3-peat. Yeah.
Live figure. It's the holidays.
Yeah,
Our
who
brains
cares?
are mush. Everyone knows that this,
All the eggnog I done
week
drank.
of work is the hardest for everybody. We're with you. We're with you guys. I'll never forget when artificial intelligence mascots took over our world for a short period of time. That happened this year.
We did that.
AI mascots in the NFL and the NBA. We had that Blue Jays commercial with the hot dogs. The AI glizzies will live rent-free in my brain.
And the bombs exploding.
The hands and the bombs exploding.
Yeah.
It was a wild time. Anyway, that's some of the best moments from
You
sports.
remember the GCM cartoons?
I do. I just actually just came up in my time hop when
Nice.
we were. I look like this for some reason.
Was that you or Kelsey?
That was me.
Okay.
We redid me.
Okay.
We had multiple me's. That's the glory of AI. You can
We
be
did.
whoever you want to be.
We did the mascots.
I'm sorry. It was more like this. It was like my hands were together.
You were praying?
Therefore,
We did the JBS mascots. You remember those
Yes, I
horrific
do.
things?
that was a fun time.
Yeah.
Feels like yesterday or years ago, but it was 2023. It's been a wonderful year. All right, that'll do it for this edition of our Best of series. We will be back on Wednesday. We'll be doing our best viral moments, the weirdest food, the weirdest animal stories, just the weirdest stories, period, that we covered throughout the year. And then on Thursday, we'll be doing our best of entertainment, songs, TV shows, movies. Find out all of them. And I hope everyone's having a wonderful final week of 2023. We'll see you next time.
I can't wait for tomorrow. The animals, I forgot about that owl that broke loose.
The food.
Oh, the food is
The
ridiculous.
food is next level. I forgot about the Subway Cadbury cream egg sandwich.
Oh, yeah. Remember that
Skittles
dude
mustard.
was just running around breaking into zoos? What about white